Allison hated wearing armor. Of all the things he was required to do in the service of the Empire, wearing the bulky Aether Steel armor was the one thing he despised. The visor was designed for Rhyfor and Canosian soldiers, and as such it wasn't built for the eyes of a young shot. It gave him tunnel vision and had a way of either fogging up or scratching in ways that would obscure his vision further. He much preferred the mobility of a combat jacket. While a combat jacket didn't have the durability of a full suit of armor, it was certainly easier to move around in, and had the advantage of not making you feel like you were being interred. Combat jackets didn't protect you from radiation, nor did they come with their own supply of oxygen and environmental control system. For all of its advantages, Allison couldn't bring himself to enjoy being locked inside of it. Commander Yendra, it looks all clear over here. Come through whenever you're ready, and you can bring the non-coms and Lieutenant Nifud with you. I'll keep your suit on, though. Rad levels are much higher in this bunker. A sudden voice in his ear was another thing that bothered him. This was, of course, compounded by the fact that the voice mentioned Lieutenant Graham Nifud. Graham was Kai's communications officer, and perhaps the only person on the entire planet who could so easily find a way to get under his skin. Allison disregarded his presence and stepped through the portal to the other bunker. The first thing he noticed was that the lights in this bunker were brighter than back in theirs. He scanned the room. It appeared to be a central portal room with a ring of portals similar to the one he had just stepped out of around the room. He noticed a few members of the primary squadron stationed by the door, and the leader of the scouts approached him and offered a salute. "Commander, if you could clear the exit to the portal, we can start getting everyone through." Allison felt a little embarrassed as he realized he had been standing on the threshold of the portal and examining the room. He stepped forward and took another look around the room. "So, what else do we know about this place? How far have you sent your scouts, Sergeant Misha?" Mish beckoned him to one of the deactivated consoles and showed him a crude map they had begun work on. "We've explored as far as we could in either direction. It's looking like this bunker was built with portals in mind, so we're limited to this block as of now. It's an irresponsible use of technology, if you don't mind me saying it, sir. Our bunker is a little bit older, so it still has corridors, but this one only has corridors within blocks. To move from one to the other, you need to use the portals. This block is clear, no threats, no survivors. We also haven't found any supplies that could be of any use. So the first order of business is getting these portals up and running so we can explore the rest of the bunker. I'll set Graham and his crew on it once they're through the portal. What sort of connectivity do we have to nanospace from here?" Nanoband shows that there is more signal penetration down here, however, I wouldn't recommend it. I'm sure you've already considered this, but we don't know what sort of scans they're running up there. Connecting to nanospace might lead them straight to us, and we haven't suffered any bombardment in the past few days. Either their attention is focused elsewhere, or they're simply saving their plasma until they know where we are. Allison smiled at the sergeant. Misha had a good head on his shoulders, and under different circumstances he probably could have made the rank of officer or even captain. There was little room for promotion when the powers that be branded you a rebel for supporting the Empress. "Well thought, Misha. We'll use Allison was interrupted by the sudden clatter of equipment boxes following through the portal. He turned in time to see Graham stumbling through after them. He wore a suit of non-combatant's armor. It was a lighter variant, designed for performing maintenance and triage. It sacrificed quite a bit of durability for its utility, and was barely able to absorb more punishment than a combat jacket. Graham still had trouble moving around in it. He was clumsy enough in his everyday life, adding armor to the equation made him outright comical. "Commander Yenra, Lieutenant Nifud reporting. I'd like to get to work immediately. Commander Kai wanted to see if we can establish communications with anyone else from this hub." Allison crossed his arms and looked at the officer. "You don't have to announce yourself to me when we're in a situation like this, Graham. Just get to work. If you could, would you mind seeing if you can get some of these portals online? I'm sure one of the other non-coms can work on the communications." From behind his visor, Graham raised an eyebrow. "Commander, I am the authority on communications platforms on this planet. However, I know almost nothing about portal technology. Besides, the only three following me are a medic, an engineer, and a mechanic. None of them can do this quite as well as I could." "They could do it, yes?" Graham paused for a moment, then relented. "Yes, I suppose the mechanic can manage it. However, I would like to emphasize that I have little to no experience with portals." "Great. Get to work then, officer." Allison turned away from him and walked into the corridor. As he started down it, he kept his ears tuned for any sounds out of the ordinary. He listened for the gentle hum of the overhead lights, the soft breeze of the environmental systems, and the spinning of plasma cyclers. This was the norm for a base of this size. Allison noticed a slight anomaly in the plasma conduits running along the wall. They appeared to be carrying plasma through the base. They were ferrying it away from the portal room and into a dead-end wall, which he thought was strange to say the least. Allison tapped his nanoband to open a short-range channel to Misha. "Sergeant, what did your men make of these conduits?" "As far as we can tell, they're taking plasma to another section of the base. We're not eggheads, though. You may want to ask Lieutenant Nifud and the techs if they know anything." Allison tapped his nanoband and opened a direct channel with Graham. "Lieutenant, can you join me in the corridor for a moment? I have something I'd like you to look at." Sir? You just ordered me to take a look at these portal consoles. I've barely started. Out here. Now. Allison smiled as he heard the distinct sound of an exasperated sigh before the channel was closed. Graham and Allison had somewhat of a rivalry when they were young recruits on Aurelia. The rivalry had evolved into a convenient way for Allison to bully his former peer. Allison was promoted faster than Graham due to his combat exploits, which left them separated by 3 rank grades. Graham stood next to him and immediately took an interest in the plasma conduits. Ah, yes, this is definitely an issue. That would explain the lack of power to the other portals. Looks like the power from this block is being diverted to the other blocks. Quite the technology, those usually reserved for cruisers. Allows them to divert power from their engines to their shields when they're on the defensive. It's actually quite the brilliant system. Give me a few moments, Commander, and I can divert the power back to the portal room. Allison clapped him on the back and turned back to the portal room. As he stepped into it, he noticed one of the other portals had sparked to life and was emitting a green glow. The non-combatants were eyeing it suspiciously, and the 2 soldiers who were guarding the door had their rifles trained on it. Allison instinctively raised his pistols and pointed them at the door. His long rifle would be useless in close quarters. Anything come through it yet? Misha shook his head and gestured with his hand for one of the soldiers to step towards it. He paused when a small blue ball rolled through the portal, and he closed his hand into a fist before ducking immediately behind a console. Grenade! Allison didn't have time to react, as the explosion threw him back against a wall. The armor creaked under the strain, but held. The room was drowned in light as a secondary explosion of the grenade indicated it was a starlight grenade designed to blind anyone in the room. Yeah, fuck you, Friest. Designed to blind anyone in the room without a sun visor. You're fucking late. Allison always kept his sun visor activated. He raised his pistols again as the first aggressor stepped through the portal and Allison fired. It was difficult to tell how tall someone was when they were wearing armor. The first body through the portal was some sort of monster. He was easily 2 heads taller than Allison and twice as wide. Allison kept his pistols trained on him and fired. Plasma bolts did little more to his armor than pebbles would have. The man continued to charge, knocking his way through the 2 guardsmen and heading straight for Sergeant Misha. Misha didn't have time to adjust his aim to compensate for the first body's agility, and the charging Hulk rammed his shoulder into the sergeant's head, knocking him over with a sickening crack. Allison didn't have time to think. There was a raging Hulk in close quarters, and he was now the only armed soldier in the room. His pistols were useless, and his long rifle, while more powerful, wasn't designed for close quarters. He reached behind him and removed it from its holster. The rifle, normally compact, sprang open in his hands. It was nearly as long as he was tall. It was made of lightweight nanosteel that allowed him to hold it indefinitely. The Hulk turned to him, and seeing the rifle, it paused for just a moment before charging. The typical protocol for a long rifle was to take your time, breathe between shots, and always aim for the head. This, he felt, was a good time to make an exception. He aimed the rifle in the general direction of the Hulk and fired. The shot hit it in the knee, punching clean through his armor and out the other side. The massive armored form stumbled and fell to the ground next to him. Allison lowered his rifle to the helmet of the Hulk and let out a low growl. I'm about a moment away from pulling this trigger, but at this range I wouldn't want to deal with the mess I would leave. So how about you answer some questions for me? Through the visor, Allison could make out the distinct canine smile of Isaku. The massive creature lifted an arm and pointed at the portal. Allison turned to the portal in time to see 6 more soldiers, all wearing the same blood-red armor as Isaku. Their rifles were trained on his men, and on him. Allison looked at the one in front. His armor carried the most adornments of all the soldiers and had a distinct white symbol, the wings of a dern. Allison knew the symbol. Crimson Wing, what the hell are you doing here? He was answered only with a rifle burst aimed directly above his head, which he felt wasn't exactly the response he was looking for. Allison wasn't startled. He'd been shot at before, and at this range even a well-aimed headshot with rifle rounds wouldn't pierce his armor. There was nothing stopping them from firing more than one shot. He removed his rifle from the head of the socket at his feet and holstered it. I'm Commander Allison Yenra of the Aurelian Corps. There, I told you my name. Why don't you do me the favor of telling me yours? The mercenary in front lifted his sun visor, revealing a haggard face covered in scars. A head of curly red hair dangled at the periphery of the helmet, and a pair of narrow brown eyes stared at him. Paula, the Crimson Wings. He shot one of my mercs. Poor girl won't be able to walk right for at least a week now. She won't be happy with you when that happens, that's for true. How'd you manage to get into this bunker? Trying not to forget we got rifle strand on you, so be truth-like, will ya? Allison sucked his teeth and shook his head. He'd heard of Paul and the Crimson Wings. They were a mercenary outfit out of Corin, one of the most feared in the sector. Their specialty was long contracts. They served as bodyguards and private military for nobles and businessmen. We took the portal, same as you. He stepped away from the Saku as she stood up, though she was only on one good leg. At this range she was easily a match for him. I'd like to ask you how you got down here. Got down here? Nah, you got it all wrong, you see. We've been down here for about 3 months now. Been tasked to watch the place by Aishin. Told us not to be worried when it started raining plasma. Allison felt a hint of shock wash over him. When? When did he tell you that? About 3 weeks ago now. We hunkered down here nice and good before it started. Didn't lose a single merc to it. Problem is, we can get out of here. Ships is in the Anga, but no way we're running that thing with the men we got. Don't look like your crew's gonna be much help there. Might as well dust you and be done with it. Allison crossed his arms. If Aishin was able to warn the mercenaries so far ahead of time, he had to have known the bombardment was going to happen. That was around the time he ordered Allison to attack the Neos holed up in Duke's mansion. There were far less of them than the mission briefing anticipated. If the mission had taken longer, they wouldn't have made it to the bunker when the bombardment started. Allison frowned as the realization dawned on him that he may have been sent to his death by a man he trusted. There are more of us, plenty more. He wasn't sure if it were the sudden betrayal or the fact that he wasn't dead yet. I shouldn't have used the accent there. Oops. He wasn't dead yet, but he allowed himself to trust Powell. Show us the ship, and let my medic attend to my sergeant. We may be able to help each other. Powell hesitated for a moment, and then his mercenaries lowered their weapons. She takes a look at Anon's first leg, then, you man. He's unconscious, so it doesn't look like he'll be going anywhere anytime soon. Trust you, but only because I'm desperate. Maybe later you tell me why you're to be trusting me, yeah? Allison gave a nod. Trusting Powell was a dangerous choice, but it couldn't be more dangerous than waiting in a bunker that was slowly poisoning you. If this was a way they could escape the planet, it was a chance that he had to take. Kyle wasn't going to be too happy about this, though. She almost never was when he made a decision by himself. That's the end of the chapter.